Hello to all my people, and if you're watching live, checking us out on YouTube, or listening on your favorite podcast provider, you are most definitely my people. Welcome to another episode of Botched, Bots, and Chair Shots. I'm your host, a chef by trade and a mark by choice. I am the Will Gray, and joining me today is a four-time NWA World Tag Team Champion. He's one half of the Heat Seekers, and they are looking to make a dent in the Crockett Cup brackets this year. He is Matt Sigmon. Matt, thanks for coming on and chat about some wrestling, brother. How are you?
Hey, yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
I'm looking forward to it. I've had a chance to sit down with a few of the NWA talent the last few weeks heading up to the Crockett Cup. And one nice thing about this conversation is it's really unique to everybody because I always start it and end it the same. I was just telling you about it. We always start with an origin story. And for me, I was a late 80s, early 90s kid, the very tail end of the NWA days, the beginning of WCW. That's kind of what I'd cut my teeth watching. What did you grow up watching as a young wrestling fan?
Oh my God. So as a kid, I grew up watching nothing but superheroes, and then I saw pro wrestling, and then it was like, oh wow, heroes are real. And so then I got into Smoky Mountain Wrestling, some really late 80s, early 90s WCW. Never really a WWF guy outside of a few Hogan matches here and there, something along those lines, Randy Savage. But heavy into WCW and just kind of the treating it like a sport for the most part thing. I was always watching Saturday night. I was watching WCW Pro. I was watching any little tidbit I could get my hands on in terms of wrestling. But WCW was my mainstay as a kid growing up.
So the next step in this process is one day you woke up and you decided, okay, I'm going to be a pro wrestler. Fuck it, I'm going to go for it. What was that
Yeah.
process like for you then when you decided, okay, this is what I want to do. I'm going to get into the training process. How did you go about deciding on a school or getting into the training?
So in high school, I guess I was going into my senior year, and at the time, wrestling was still pretty hot, and there was a lot going on, like on TV, in terms of documentaries and specials on Discovery or 2020, whatever it might have been. And I really wanted to train, and I saw a video of chaotic wrestling up in Boston, and saw the school that Killer Kowalski, had his kind of hand in, and a lot of really good talent was coming out of there. A lot of really heavily talented individuals that are dominating the business today came from there. And so I went up there for a week. I talked them into letting senior high school me go up there at 17 years old and spend a week just to see how the business was, see how it felt, just get a feel for things, see if it was something I truly wanted to invest myself in. And went up there, met a wonderful crew. They put me with Tommaso Ciampa at the time and Hanson from the what are they now, the Vikings,
The Viking Raiders?
Viking Raiders. Um, there now. And so we spent a week with them and just getting bumped around and knocked around and bruised up and banged up. I came back home to Knoxville, and I had bruises from head to toe, man. I felt terrible. Felt like I've been thrown out of an airplane. But I loved it, and I was addicted from that moment on. And so, luckily, not for him, but for me at the time, Tom Pritchard had just been fired from WWE, and he opened a really small wrestling school here close to Knoxville. And I found out about it. And so, me and really one other guy were the mainstays there. His name's Devin Driscoll. He had a development deal for a while, but he runs a lot of D1 fitness facilities now here in the area. Wonderful person. But me and him, we really grinded for 6 months or so with Tom, and through that, I was able to really, meet Rock and Roll Express and Tracy Smothers and Bobby Eaton and start really hitting the roads with those guys. And early, and at that point, 2005, 6, 7, 8, we're working 6 nights a week, Tuesday through Sunday. Monday's the only day we had off, and I was juggling college and girlfriend and family and hobbies and whatever. And I don't think I slept for like 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
So as a Knoxville native, as a Tennessee native, also
Yeah.
born and bred right here in the great state, that Knoxville territory going back into that NWA days, the JCPs and everything, that was a rich wrestling territory. Being a native and being there and seeing it as you grew up, what was it like breaking into the business in such a historic territory?
Um, Good and bad. I mean, we had a lot of history. There's a lot of really good wrestling. A lot of wonderful people, like I was saying, Smothers and Bobby Eaton and Rock and Roll were still traveling around this area heavily, and I'd be able to hop in the car with them and learn. But growing up, there was also bad. You had a lot of really carny shows, just kind of killing the Knoxville area. Um, he's passed away now. I don't want to speak too bad of him, but Terry Landale was a guy who promoted Knoxville wrestling shows here, and he had some good talent, but a lot of it, man, was just untrained guys and just killing what wrestling was perceived as around here. And so it was hit and miss. But we would also get some really good, early '90s. Smoky Mountain was dominating, so I got to watch guys like Jericho and Lance Storm, and a lot of my heroes really growing up and watching Heavenly Bodies. Dr. Tom, man, I loved Dr. Tom as a kid, and then I trained under him later, and uh, blessed with that privilege. But so it's just highs and lows, kind of like any wrestling, really. But Knoxville is very fortunate to be in this one location where, within 3 hours you can get to Atlanta or Charlotte or Nashville or Lexington. So we were a good centralized location guys could travel to pretty easy and really make the most of it.
Looking at, you've had a chance to work with so many great promotions out there. One of the big ones in that territory, NWA Smoky Mountain, then it became Innovate Wrestling. Tony Givens and some of the boys. We've got mutual friends that have been through that promotion. What was it like having a chance to work with Tony and those guys?
I love Tony. A matter of fact, I'm there for him this weekend wrestling Kerry Morton for his NWA World Junior belt. And Tony's one of my best friends in the business because when we met up and linked up, he was really grinding his teeth at promoting and trying to grow this brand, and I'm grinding my teeth wanting to be a wrestler. And so we worked together and built some really fun stuff, I feel, over the years, and just being a part of what he's been able to accomplish in this area and building a legitimate name for himself. He runs events now, not quite as often as he used to, but they're high quality events, and you got people traveling from all across the country to wrestle and watch. And so just being a part of that has been something special, and just seeing some of the moments over the years that we've been able to create has led to a lot of opportunities for me, really, because Tony has um, put us in several positions where we've been able to get eyes on us from various places and be able to open some doors. So very thankful to Tony over the years, and excited to see what's to come for him too.
So now that you've had a chance, you've traveled all over the world. You've been to Canada and Japan, and we'll get to all that. But now, when you've done all that, when you come back home though, and you have a chance to work back in that, the 865, like, what's it feel like to go home for you?
I don't spend much time here in a wrestling sense. I come here to sleep and spend time with my family and eat. But most of our money is made for me and Elliot anyway. Is made in on the road in the Carolinas or down the coast a little bit, or going to like the Mid Atlantic region, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Missouri and stuff. So Knoxville's not really a go-to spot for us, and I'm totally okay with that. There's a lot of good here going on, and there's a lot of young guys that are really trying to learn and grow. Um, I, it's just not where right now that I can make the most out of what I'm trying to build.
Understood. I just, once again, Tennessee native. I've got to put the hometown over.
And
Um,
I keep my eyes on the product around here too. There are some good companies. There's a lot of good talent that are really learning and growing through. Dr. Tom's got his school here again with Kane, and they're growing a lot of really good talent that is starting to build their names up in this area. And so when I do pop in for a cup of coffee here in the area, I love to work with some of those guys just to contribute what I can and see how they're shaping up these days.
let's hop in the Wayback Machine. You had a chance to do some work with Ring of Honor early in your career. What
Yeah.
was it like being just a few years in and then going from working the traditional house show indie shows to going to a big full scale production at that point in your career?
It was really cool at the time. I think it's 2006, 7, 8. Maybe we do a lot of Dayton, Ohio, or Indianapolis, that kind of thing. I was very fortunate to be friends with Nigel McGuinness and Austin Aries, and really much so Jerry Lynn, and they were able to open some doors of opportunity there for us. And at the time, we weren't quite what they were looking for, and I wasn't. I was still pretty green, and so I wasn't what I needed to be at the time to make an impact in those locker rooms. But it was still a really cool experience. And the one thing it did for us, though, was for me personally, anyway, just getting your name on that card at any of those towns in any capacity added a lot of value to my independent stuff, and just opening some doors that way. So it was cool to sit back and just watch that too, and just to learn from those guys, because at the time, man, that roster was loaded. It was, Brian Danielson and Nigel tearing it up night in, night out, Generico and Steen. I mean, it was just a crew of guys that were working really hard. Briscoes, Delirious, always delivering. No matter, Nigel's one of those guys who I always loved being around him, because he would work so hard and his body would be so banged up, but he wouldn't let that slow him down a little bit. I remember, and some shows we can be kind of lazy, right? We can take it easy, take a night off. And Nigel would say, you ever heard of the saying "less is more"? Yeah. He'd say, no, 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 more is more, and just boom, 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 never stop. So I loved it.
Another one of those historic indie territories. You've had a chance to work in OVW.
Yeah,
Two different, very different points in your career, though. That early 2010s reigns, and then recently, two very different owners as well. We talked
yeah.
about NWA Smoke, or we talked about Smoky Mountain Wrestling and growing up watching it. What was it like when you got to OVW and had a chance to cross paths with Corny?
So Courtney's been really, really, really good to me over the years. He's managed me and Elliot several times, and I don't know if I've got it hanging up. I've got my cornet racket over here somewhere, just on the wall. But yeah, both each time we've stopped in OVW, back 2010 or whenever I was doing singles wrestling, um, it was always cool because I'd be doing a heavy amount of Kentucky, and so there'd be OVW guys kind of here and there on shows with me, and so I always like to stop in there when I had the opportunity to do so, just to learn and pick the brain of some of those guys that were being groomed for TV at the time, in the developmental cycle. And then now, Al Snow's got a really good operation going there. And so it's always fun to stop in, catch up with those guys, see what they're developing right now, see how I could fit into the mix and help make somebody look good for the day, or build a good match. And then, because I'm only there for one day, I'm not coming to OVW every single week. So let me come in and contribute a little bit and then go on my way. So, but it's always a pleasure.
At this point in your career, do you still watch a lot of film? Do you still rewatch matches and see what you can do better? Do you still go back and like evaluate yourself?
Yeah, constantly. Because and sometimes, I'll go back and I'll watch matches from like 6 years ago, and I'll be like, I used to do that. We went pretty hard in this match, or something will stand out and give me a fresh perspective. But yeah, I'll go back and check stuff out, because I always want to deliver. I never want to be at a point where I'm lazy or not really getting the crowd emotionally invested. So I'll go see what's working in matches, what I could fine tune, what things me and Elliot can clean up, or maybe remove or add, whatever it might be. I feel there's a lot of value in that. Do I watch a lot of the current product? No. Here and there, I will watch, Manias and some of the bigger shows, just to see who's hot right now, what the matches are looking like, that kind of thing. Um, I don't watch a lot of the weekly TV. Um, I- I'll try to catch some of my friends that are on those rosters when they text me and they're like, "Hey, this match was solid. You got to pick this apart and learn from it." Okay, I'll check it out. Um, but it kind of just depends on the moment. The wrestling life balance has changed for me a lot over the years. We used to have this mentality where it was like wrestling all or nothing. That's all that matters in life, and nothing else to it. Give it all. You die wrestling. For the most part, that's still true for me. I'll do this till the day I'm dead. I love it. Um, but I've got a 5-year-old daughter. I've got family. I've got mental health being more of a priority for me and a lot of the other people in wrestling these days, and just trying to find that balance of how can we be truly passionate for this, but also take care of ourselves in the long run. So it just depends on the week, really.
So, bringing it up, how important is it in the pro wrestling business that mental health awareness is becoming as big as it is now? Because if you look at 5, 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't something they really discussed,
Mhm.
especially not amongst the boys, so to speak. So, how important is it to you now with everything you're bringing to that forefront with mental health awareness? How important it is to you that it's being talked about now in pro wrestling?
Yeah, it's very important. I've lost a lot of friends through suicide and just challenges they've been facing mentally that has contributed to a health decline overall in general. So and I've started the podcast. I call it Wrestling with the Mind, where I've had some really wonderful people on there to chat about mental health and not so much talk about wrestling. But most of my people are involved in wrestling in some capacity because that's who I've been around, who I've seen it hit
It's
so
been your
many.
life.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been my life. So been fortunate. Jimmy Jacobs and Austin Aries, Chase Owens, and Jason Kincaid, guys like that, who Tim Storm too, who've come on and shared stories and just given me a fresh perspective of the cool thing about wrestling. We have people from legitimately all walks of life. No wrestler comes from the same background or living in the same world, pretty much. And so just seeing all these different approaches people have to improving their mental health and keeping self care a priority have been really beneficial for me. And then a lot of the people that listen to small podcast, but it's just a passion project of mine just to help somebody. At the end of the day, if I help one person get help in some fashion or get through a challenging time, it's a win for me, man.
So you just said it. Wrestlers come from all walks of life.
Mhm.
You, in your career, you've had a chance to travel abroad. You've been to Japan. You crossed over there when in multiple periods. But when you first got there, that very first time when you went to Japan for the, how was it being from Knoxville, Tennessee? You know, I'm from Nashville. They're real similar cities. Like anytime I go to a big city or I see it, like, did you have any of that initial culture shock from getting over there and being in Tokyo or being in Japan for the first time?
I I don't think so much shock because we did. Let's see, we did a tour of China back in like 2015, and that was kind of a culture shock at that point because it was like truly a different world, different way people were living, different culture overall, just wild differences. But I love learning and I love seeing how people operate each day and what we value here and things somebody else totally different and what they find valuable in life. And so I love seeing the differences in that and just learning more and expanding my knowledge and horizon with that. Now, Japan, it was really cool because the first trip over, we landed, we got to the hotel, and then the first thing we did was like go to Ribera. And so, growing up reading all the magazines, looking at my heroes with the Ribera jackets, to have that moment after 14 hours of terrible sleep on a plane and landing in different time and then just getting in there and doing it, it was wild. And that was something that I grew up really wanting to happen. And so that was a kind of a benchmark for me. But I love Japan. I love the people. I love the culture. I love the food. I love how respectful people are over there, just to each other and to their environments. I think overall people really try to do a good job with managing all of that. And so if I was at a different point in my life, I might would be over there full time. But I'm happy for the little dips and trips we get over there at the moment.
Stylistically, Having come up working with Dr. Tom and a lot of that,
Mhm.
that's a very traditional Southern wrestling approach to the sport. When you
Right.
get to Japan, they're known for that strong style, lots of strikes, stuff like that. How was it blending the two styles together, working with, they say wrestling's like a dance. You've got your Mamba and your Tango and your
Right.
Salsa. What was it like blending two styles of dance together?
So most of the environments and the matches that we've been in, um, the promoter wanted to see old school tag team wrestling. And because that's, I mean, that's what we do. That's why they brought us over. So that's what they wanted us to put out as a product. So, and everybody we worked with over there so far have been nothing but respectful and have taken care of us and made us feel comfortable and at home and in the ring, out of the ring. And the style difference is not too bad. I mean, I love adapting and getting to a point where I can connect with whatever crowd I'm in front of. We're always going to have that old school psychology foundation. I'll get a little technical, and then Elliot's more of the powerhouse, the brawler, and so we kind of blend that way, and we just play to our strengths, and we try to bring up our game to whatever team we're at if they're different than us, and they tone it just down just a little bit, and we meet somewhere in the middle, and that's worked well for us over the years, and not a problem. I love it.
So speaking of good traditional tag team wrestling,
Mhm.
NWA Crockett Cup, it's right around the
Yeah.
corner. It's one of the most renowned tag team tournaments in the world. It's up there with the New Japan tournaments as far as like prestige. If you win a Crockett Cup, it's a big deal. What do you think it means to tag team wrestling in 2023 now?
It's something that people are starting to appreciate more again. More respect is being put on it. Um, that's been a struggle over the years. We've battled it, but thankfully there have been teams over the years that have really been pushing to build up just tag team wrestling overall. And I think it's wonderful that we're at this opportunity now to have a cup with teams from literally, if I can speak today, all around the world, from Mexico, all across the states, Canada, and just having the chance to be in the ring back at NWA and getting the feel for that environment again. Uh, it's good. It's good. It's challenging. It's different, and I'm excited to see what all we can make happen out of this.
So the Heat Seekers, you guys are back in the tournament. Do you have any predictions, like how you feel standing up against the rest of the bracket?
I think we win it all, right? I think we win it all. I want to get paid for every single match in the tournament, and then a nice trophy, and then no. But I mean, truly though, at the end of the day, any of these teams, you could put them as a winner, and they'd be believable because you've got highly decorated, highly uh, talented teams, and across the board, it's all the brackets. Everything's loaded up a lot stronger than I've seen in recent time. And I think there's 24 teams this year, which is wild. And it just makes me happy to see that there's 24 solid teams like that to be in a tournament, because 10 years ago might not have been the case. So now we're at this point, and I think our first round matchup, we're in a different environment for ourselves. We were talking about matching up with the guys from Japan, but now we're going up against two guys from AAA, Toxin and Aries, and I have no idea what I'm walking into. I got some studying to do over the next week.
So when you look at you and Elliot, you guys are established tag team. You've held gold everywhere. You've got a very distinct chemistry about the way you work in the ring. How do you feel? Do you feel that gives you an advantage, say against an Adonis and a Tyrus, which are two powerhouses, but they're two single stars coming together for a tag team match versus a chemistry laden foundation of a tag team? Do you think that gives you and Elliot an edge?
It always gives us the edge because we've been tagging nonstop for 10 years, which there are very few that can say that at this point. So we know each other like the back of our hand. So if we're in a situation where something's going not our way, we know how to turn the tables pretty quick, and we know how to pick guys apart, and especially guys who are not often a tag team together. Maybe they're not on the same page. Maybe there's some communication problems. Maybe they both have their ideas on how they want to win a match. And me and Elliot, we know both of our strengths, we know both of our weaknesses, and we know how to bridge that gap. And so we're at this point now where I'm looking at this bracket, and while there's all these really good teams, we stand the test of time that most of these have not. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the experience brings to the table.
You guys have held the NWA Tag Team Championships. You guys have been on top of the mountain. You've been at the pinnacle. What's it like being the guy, getting that call, knowing, okay, you're going to have the whole division on your back now? What's that feel like?
It's a lot of pressure, but it's no more than any other day. You walk into every show and you want to deliver. You want to win. You want to carry your name to a higher level. You want to be the flagship. That's what we want to do here in wrestling. It's because the flagship, they make money and that pays the bills and that keeps my wife happy. That makes my kid have opportunities to do things that are fun. So I'm constantly trying to get to that point and push forward. And I feel that when you do have that championship, yeah, all the pressure's on you, but all the eyes are too, all the fans and all that attention and all that extra motivators for me anyway. So I think it's fun to represent a company that truly wants to invest time and money into you and let you be in that position. And so we've held the NWA 4 times. I don't know when that next time is going to happen, but at some point or another, before we wrap it up and call it a day, Lord willing, I'm going to be a 5-time NWA World Tag Team Champion.
This has become my favorite question I ask, and I'm
Okay.
curious about your take on it. You've been in the business now for 16, 17, 18 years in ring.
Feeling like 45, right?
If you had the opportunity now, though, let's go back to day one, night one, match one, and you're looking at rookie Matt. What advice do you give that man today?
Slow down, shut up, and listen. Um, 17-year-old jumping into the wrestling business, there's a quick point where you think you know a lot. And unfortunately for young rookie Matt, that came very quickly. Uh, but just slowing down and taking your time, enjoying the moments because in 17 years, man, that's past like nobody's business. I mean, it's going boom, 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 boom. And the older I get, the faster it goes. And so we all have this mindset, and this is any career. This is, I mean, with you, maybe with the podcast and writing, whatever it might be. With wrestlers, there's always that carrot dangling of WrestleMania, WWE, or what AEW, whatever it might be.
That next level, so to speak, getting that
Yeah.
next oomph.
And we don't sit back and enjoy the ride. We're so hyper focused on the end goal. We don't look at all the good we have around us at the moment. Man, oh, but that one hit hard for a second. Just thinking back on some of those moments, some of those car trips with friends and ones that are no longer here, man, and just really needing to appreciate that and soak it up a little bit more and not be so focused, not take away that passion, but being able to look around for a moment and enjoy what you have around you.
All right, Matt. The easy part's done. Now it's time for the tough part. I always close with 5 random questions that have nothing to do with wrestling. You ready?
I'm ready. Yep.
All right. Question number 1. What's your favorite season of the year?
It's always been winter. I always loved the cold. I loved the colder the weather, the more snow I could find. I used to love our Canada tours because we'd run into blizzards and it'd be frigid and crazy. The older I get and the more my bones hurt, the more I'm at not straight up summer heat, but that point in between winter and spring or fall and winter, a little bit warmer, my bones are starting to appreciate it that much more.
Question number 2. What's your favorite vacation spot?
Oh my God. I love Disney World. I'm an avid Disney fan. I think it's the one place. Wrestling ruins us a lot when it comes to entertainment. We get used to storytelling. We get used to things. We become numb to it. I don't really enjoy concerts much anymore. It's hard for me to really enjoy movies because I know the flow of how this is going to go, and nothing really surprises me. It takes us out of it, and we get just so numb to it all. But going to Disney, man, for some reason, all the magic they work hard to really create some cool stuff down there.
Magical
So
place on earth, right?
yeah, yeah. And so, a few years ago, my wife worked there for like 3 years doing entertainment, some of the princess stuff. And So I was at Disney every day, and now we're back in Knoxville, and so I miss it and plan on going again here soon. But that's my favorite spot to go to.
Question number 3. What's your favorite go-to hype song right now? If you're working out, getting ready for a match, what's your go-to hype song?
Oh my God, that changes every day, man. Some days it could be something as silly as like the DuckTales theme, and then others, it's we come out most nights. We come out to Frankenstein by the Edgar Winters Group, and that's what Dr. Tom used in the Heavenly Bodies for a long time in Smoky Mountain. And there's something about that song, man. It just gets me fired up. So as soon as that, I can be kind of half warmed up, not mentally prepared to even walk out the curtain. But as soon as that music hits, I just walk out like it's nobody's business.
That's a great answer. I love that old school wrestling. The Heavenly Bodies were my jam.
Yeah,
Question number 4. Do you have a dream car?
a
A car you've
dream
always
car.
wanted? Yeah.
Yeah, I actually owned it, and now I'm sad because, and you had to bring this up, and it's hurt my feelings again. But I had a Kia Niro, so it's a hybrid, and I loved it. It For wrestlers, it's perfect because it was a hybrid. I was getting 54 miles of the gallon, and when you're in independent wrestling, that's awesome. And then we did a tour of Canada, and we were in Saskatchewan, and a deer decided that it would be great to just jump out in front of the car. Totaled it. And so now I'm driving a Volkswagen Passat, which is good enough, but I miss my Kia Niro, and that's my dream car again.
I've never thought about how important having a hybrid would be. The amount of time, even for me on the journalism side, the amount of time I spend on the road getting to shows, like having a hybrid, that's
Mhm.
clutch.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Number 5. Yours one did have to do with wrestling. It's question number 5. What's your favorite venue you've ever had a chance to wrestle in?
Oh my God. Um, that one's really hard.
Asking the tough
Um,
questions. I told you the front half was the easy part.
that one is tough. Truly, and this is not a cop out. I don't know if I have a favorite venue. I really enjoy Innovate Wrestling. Tony Givens, he runs the Civic Auditorium in Kingsport. That building has a whole lot of history in terms of wrestling. I mean, wrestling there dates back almost 100 years. Elvis performed there. There's a lot of Johnny Cash did. There's a lot of history in that building, and the crowds are always awesome to work with. Um, so it's up there. But just in general, man, I don't care about the buildings. I care about the emotional investment I get from the people. That's what I remember the most. I can't remember most of the buildings we've actually wrestled in, name wise, but I've been very fortunate to wrestle in a lot of really cool places, and so um, I'm telling that Civic Auditorium though is something special.
All right, Matt, that's it. This is everybody's favorite part of the episode because I don't say anything. I let you talk, plug your stuff, put yourself over, tell everybody where to find you, your socials, what's coming up with the Heat Seekers, anything exciting you guys got coming.
Yeah, you can find me across pretty much all social media at Sigmon Wrestling, Sigmon Wrestling. I'm pretty active across all of it just to engage every day with people. I like conversation. We're staying pretty busy. We have a schedule that's booked out pretty much into next summer already, which is wild. We've got some fun stuff with NWA, looking to go back to Japan maybe here soon for another cup of tea. And then we're always in the Carolinas doing some fun things through there, and staying pretty heavy with that. So check us out. Always looking to deliver true tag team wrestling with capital wrestling across the board. Um, we aim to deliver a pretty high mark every night, night in, night out. Outside of that, the podcast that I've got, like I said, Wrestling with the Mind, you can go to wrestlingmind.com for all the links associated with that, and there's some really good conversations there. So I encourage you to check out that project, be a part of that community. And then support some of the cool stuff we do have coming up. Innovate Wrestling, NWA is running like crazy across the world, it seems, and so they're doing some really cool stuff. But there's so much good wrestling out there, man. Impact and AEW and MLW and WWE, everybody's really pushing hard at the moment, and I think it's really cool to see what all is out there right now, and so many guys and girls, friends and peers having jobs and being able to put food on the table. So don't just support me, support it all, man.
Support pro wrestling.
Yeah, we appreciate it across the board.
Matt, I genuinely appreciate your time this afternoon and taking it and hanging out with me and chatting about some wrestling with me, brother.
Absolutely. Anytime, man. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week.
Man, we can't wait for it. We'll see you in Winston. For Matt Sigmon, I am the Will Gray. Thanks for stopping by and listening, my people.